Mark in the count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're at in the country. I am Brick Something, and actually, fun fact, I'm not even in your country if you're watching in the United States. I'm actually in Japan right now, but I'm pre-recording with Captain McKay today. What's going on, man?
What's happening? Thank you for having me on.
Dude, thank you for agreeing to jump on to the Brick Something channel and hang out and get nerdy, share our passion for plastic and art. And just kind of look at some needless ephemera. So I guess to my point real quick, I am away, so I'm pre-recording some of these things and just trying to get in some extra episodes for folks during the summer. And so if you're watching this live right now and you're like, hey dude, why aren't you acknowledging me? I see you, but just on the chat, because I'm actually in there right now chatting it up. That's the goal. But he and I will probably not be able to address you much. So sorry about that, but talk to me in the chat. Captain McKay, welcome to the Brick Something channel. Welcome to the needless ephemera we saw. I'm curious, before we get started, I know I'm significantly older than you, but did any of that video that just played, did that ring any bells at all for you?
I didn't recognize anything beyond having seen it as your intro, like nothing. Maybe it kind of like evocative of like early 90s MTV type stuff, if I had to point.
Yeah. That's essentially what I was leaning into. And it's funny, I was just having a conversation with someone. It's like, man, we watch it and we see this like it's MTV, but most people are like, I don't know what he's doing, whatever. It's cool. I don't think MTV even exists anymore, even online. But wow. Yes, but the reason I bring it up is, it sounds like you're familiar with like 90s MTV at least.
Sure.
That was like of a different era. First off, the TV part, we were just talking before we started, like that was a huge part of this whole plastic passion thing, right? Because these toys usually were linked to some kind of cartoon, right? Or some TV show. And we all sat around as kids or bigger kids and like, oh, let me watch Skeletor battle with He-Man. And then there would be these pauses in the show where all of a sudden they get these fun 30-second or so, glimpses at, oh my God, what is that? That's like that show that I was watching the other day. It seems to me that given like what you do with your art and your animation, you might have been a little bit influenced by that kind of stuff. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like watching, like we were talking about some of the commercials and stuff, like watching all that stuff as a kid, I always was more interested in obviously the figures and everything because the characters I would have loved from the movie or the shows or whatever it happened to be. But like then the amount of world building they were able to convince me that they had done in the 30-second spot ad for whatever figures it was. But you would always imagine in your head that you had this whole scenario and this whole like environment for your figures, and you never did. You had like your dresser and a table if you were lucky, but like in your brain, it looked like the huge, city backdrop and skyline of like whatever you saw in the commercials.
Absolutely.
So, putting that visual together has always been something that I've really enjoyed doing over the years in my own way.
Well, what's wild is when you think about like if you go back and watch some of those commercials, you realize someone got paid to sit around and figure out how they can like make these toys come to life. And to your point, like someone was like, hey, we need a mountain. Someone put that together. Hey, we need, a base. Okay. And so essentially, like, that's at the heart of what you're doing with your stop motion work that we're going to see in a little bit. But before we do that, right before we started, I asked Captain McKay to, hey, like, what are some of the stuff that you were watching, that you were seeing on TV back in the day, back when, you know, essentially, like, we were programmed. They could create this space that they knew people would be, and they're going to sit there and they're going to see these things. Nowadays, everybody can sit and bring up whatever they want to watch, whatever they want to listen to. And so it's harder to kind of like create those spaces for people to go like, hey, check this out. So you came with a couple of things. So before I get too far, down on that bottom left corner, or sorry, to his left shoulder, you'll see a QR code, and that QR code will take you to the URL that's coming down there in the corner over there, bit.ly/Brick Something News, capital B, capital S, capital News. I will put together the list of links, and you'll be able to see everything that we're seeing. So we're about to take a look at some commercials. Here's the deal. I don't really want to play the audio, and actually it's a little bit harder to, just because of copyright issues and all that kind of thing. But we're going to take a look at these and just kind of react and talk about what we're seeing, and just try and pick it apart a little bit from the fan and artsy, nerdy, graphic designy, motion graphic, motion brains, and what we're seeing, right? So if you want to check these things out for yourself and you want to hear them, definitely use those links. All right. So I will put our faces to the side, and then I will bring this up over her. And right away, I suspect folks will know what's going on here, but this is one of Captain McKay's. Let's see. Why are you gonna be like this? There you go.
There we go.
Away. Yeah, right away I was like, oh, look at that cool figure. Here we go. So you can't hear anything, correct?
Right, I can't.
Okay. So this was for Batman the Animated Series, the toy line. Was this one of the ones that you were into back in the day?
Oh yeah, 100%. So I can remember, this is like unlocking very oddly specific memories for me, but like, you know, I remember this show had been out for a little while, and I was thinking how there's no figures or anything yet. And like one morning before school, I saw this exact commercial, and I was just like over the moon for that entire like third grade school day or whatever I would have been in, just thinking about like how cool the toys looked, and you know, like how we're able to right now pause and get a good look at them. Like I only had that 30-second glimpse, and that was all I got. And then I had to wait and hope that this commercial came back on whenever I was watching, you know, whatever the next thing I was watching.
Yeah, but kids, know what he's saying. Like you saw it or you didn't, unless you were like something that I kind of did at a certain point. You just turned the recorder on, you played, then you captured it. But once you saw it, if you blink, you missed it, and then it was gone. So you were sitting there going like, what is that? And yeah.
It was probably like, it was probably just like I got to school and was talking about it, and there's probably kids didn't believe me because there was no way to like just go back and fact check me, and none of it. So I just had to sit there with my own excitement and think about how cool this, you know, this 5-point articulation Batman looked like, just like the show. And, you know, to this day, actually, their sculpts are great, but you know, they captured the vibe of the show like perfectly in that commercial. And so I was like on board since immediately, like day one.
Yeah, let's take a look at what's going on here right away. Like, you know, I kind of have that still screen here. You know, if you're familiar with the show, it's like instant recognition, right? You're like, oh, and you can't hear the audio, but there's that instant cue of those first couple. It's like, oh, okay, you're sucked in, right? So that thing's pretty cool. That sort of notion is with the key graphics and everything. And then they bring you into here, and it's just so cool, interspersing the cartoon and the figures. And, you know, I have a feeling they knew what they had, because unlike a lot of the toys that maybe came out 6-7 years before that, you take a look at whatever cartoon it was or even movie, and then you look at the figure and they were like so far apart from one another.
Yeah.
But when they do these quick like the you know, the Bruce Timm art lends itself to this simplified action figure form, and it totally works.
It definitely, yeah. And having it look pretty much exactly like the show did was like, it was a huge detail for me that you didn't, like you said, you didn't always get that with previous figures. Like I remember being a Turtles kid prior, and like it always kind of bugged me that the turtle toys never looked like the cartoons. They were always like, I love them now, but at the time I was like, why are they so like, you know, they're all different colors and they're all like super muscular and like, you know, ripped and everything. And I'm like, it's just something missing there. There's a step in the middle they didn't quite take, but now you know why they did that at the time and everything. But like this, you know, I'm like, oh, just like the cartoon, get in. Like I'm ready.
A couple of things stand out, like the key details that just sell it for me in terms of like, oh, that brings you back. And I'm trying to capture it without the YouTube interface, but the whole text at the bottom, the, you know, figures and vehicles sold separately. It's like, oh my God, just so much of that brings you back. But also, you know, you're talking about world building earlier. You've got the vehicle flying through. I love that they didn't, you know, like it's a kid's hand showing you you're playing with this thing, but that background, like that is, you know, that like that's that key art from the show, that real simplified Gotham city skyline, that moon. And really, if you think about like what it would take to at least do that back in the day, it wouldn't have taken much. But it's so cool, like the way they capture the imagination, build the world. You got the little, what was that, like a little building scene and some, you know, the little bricks being blown apart.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
The part that like definitely catches my attention is when they show the Batman figure grappling because he's falling, and you can see like whoever did the diorama of the building, like the face of the building, like whoever that guy is, he was killing it. Like the details on that is like really good. And
the cool, you know, like Gothic architecture. Look at that.
Yeah, and that's like first of all straight out of the show, so you know, A+ for that guy. But also it's something that to this day I'm just like, man, I would love to make something like that, like just to have, you know, for my own displays or for animating in front of it or whatever. Like it's really well done. And it, you know, like you were saying, the world building brings you to exactly that part of Gotham City that you want to be playing with your toys in.
If for some magic reason you're watching this and you found this channel and you're the person who worked on that, man, that's amazing. Like to think of somewhere out there was like, oh yeah, they probably built like what, hundreds of these things like in a year. But like just to think that was a whole like ad agency's plan, and they had the creatives working in, okay, we're gonna need Gothic arches for this Batman to fly through for about 5 seconds. Amazing stuff.
I would genuinely be curious, like if they reused props across different, like this could have been like repurposed for gargoyles the next year or something, and like you wouldn't have batted an eye. But like, is this just one guy making all this stuff, or is it just different people coming in and building these things? It's just a fascinating, thing that I never really thought of until just we're talking about it.
Yeah, there's a documentary in the making there right now, right? Really tracking down who these folks were and what they did and what that was like. Man, all right, let's see. You brought up, and I really appreciate the ones you brought up because these are lines that I totally remember, but they're a little bit off the beaten path. They're not the ones that.
Oh, here we go.
That's right. They're not your GI Joes, which I'll get to, but like these toys were fantastic.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, this is like, hey, remember this stuff? Or, that logo. Oh.
Yeah. And again, like just the scenery and the lighting and everything, just like they had somebody out there on the strobe doing that while these guys are fighting on the foreground. Like it's so good.
Oh, so fun. Showing off the action features, the spit, the tongue coming out. Look at that. Exploding aliens.
Yeah, really good.
Oh, this is so good. So again, brand recognition, boom, here's the movie. It's just kind of wild that essentially clips from like must have been a rated R movie. This is Aliens, plural.
Yeah, and like 6 or 7 years after the movie came out, and they're just finally getting around to this. Like,
amazing stuff. And then, we get to here. That's cool. Like that swipe of the gun and all of that choreography, really cool.
And I know we're not playing the audio, but one of my favorite things in this commercial is that at the intro, when it shows the word aliens, you get a monster going aliens. And
yeah.
I'm like, is that the alien telling? Like, what? what is that voice? But it's so good, and it's so like 90s Saturday morning like excellence.
Yeah, man, this was incredibly fun. I look at these toys, and it just really, again, highlights the toy. Look at that background right there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's something that many of us would pay a lot of money for today to have our line our figures up or whatever, and probably hurt our thumbs putting together this thing. So I'm thinking of a very specific Dio kit.
Okay.
But yes. No, this is cool looking. And again, they do a good job of really showing us the toys and how the toys are sort of meant to be played with. I love this action feature. Boom.
Yep.
I don't think it was that powerful. They've got like dude with a string on the other one. Just like,
just yanking the guy out. Probably.
I remember that one. That one was so great. My brother had these.
Nice.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And so far we haven't really seen a whole lot of stop motion, which is, I know, something you've been messing with. But like, again, there's a charm to even the sort of like pose them up, move them around, and all of this becomes sort of the visual language for toy collectors these days. A lot of us still remember this stuff from when it actually aired. On a lot of the younger folks are like seeing this stuff and kind of like, you know, getting nostalgic and looking back like we are right now.
Absolutely.
In the chat, I'm curious if you had these toys or if you remember these commercials or if you have fond memories of ones. I wish YouTube would allow you to drop in links because man, I love it when people just share links. But hit me up on IG if you got ones. I'd love to take a look at them. But Aliens, the invasion is on. That's all lighting. That lighting is all practical, right? With that video effect title on there.
Yeah,
that's
really
great.
Good.
All right. This is the other one that you brought. Now this.
Okay, yeah, this looks like Series 1. Here we go.
Oh my God, they're so silly.
Yeah. Like, this is what we had. Anybody younger being like, what was the pinnacle of action figure collecting in 1991? Yeah, here we go.
Man, that figure must have been so expensive. It had light up eyes.
$4 or whatever it was.
Oh man, no, that was amazing. That I was telling Captain McKay before we started that by the time this figure hit, this was 91. Yeah, I would have been in college, and where I went to college, we only had one channel on broadcast TV, so I was actually not watching a whole lot of television and missing out on all these toy commercials by that time. This stuff was really cool.
Yeah,
but by that time they had me in the like late 70s and 80s program, so I was going down to the local Kmart looking at all the Marvel figures anyway, the Toy Biz figures anyway. So
nice. So you were at least familiar with these guys.
Oh, I mean, I bought them.
Oh,
like,
nice.
but that's what I'm saying. By that time, they didn't need to show me the commercials anymore. I was just like, what? There's X-Men figures. And yeah, back in the day in college, so this is like 94 to 98, but when I was actually in college and right around this time, I don't know, I guess I was actually still in high school. I just wasn't paying attention. But in 94 to 98, this was later, like with the Fantastic Four line and stuff. I would actually take the figures and throw them into a flatbed scanner. I was a graphic design sort of an art studio major. And I'd scan them in. And in order to get to this, like, you know, highly sought after digital art class, like more fine art, I wanted to skip the prerequisites. So I had to kind of show that I know how to do like Photoshop and stuff and some web development. So I created a website of like my action figure scanned into a flatbed scanner. So you still see the dimensions, and then I'd go into Photoshop and isolate them and put them in environments. So it was basically like old school digital toy photography. Anyways, but this stuff is like, when I think back to it, I was like, yeah, you know, this is what we were seeing, and it was cool. Like, pose them up, see the figures. So sometimes I like cringe a little when I think back to that thing that I was doing with the scanners, but I'm like, well, this was on TV and someone was getting paid money, and Toy Biz was paying quite a bit of money to have these commercials made and broadcast. So
and they sold a lot of toys. They got me. They got a lot of people my age got hooked in on this, and because your focus is on how cool the toys are. It's like you were saying with the aliens before, like they were showing all the action features. Every little figure gets like a showcase of what it's all about. Even though you got this kid's head right there in the shot, you're not paying attention to that. You're just watching Juggernaut get thrown off a bridge, or like Colossus, you know, like.
And there's almost like, it seems very intentional. I don't know if there were like particular rules or if there was sort of just marketing and advertising. I don't know, like best practices of like, no, you got to show the kids, because that was something that was happening for the longest time. Show the kids' hands, show the kids' faces, or, you know, I remember some famous ones, whether it's Micronauts or He-Man, the dad's like, okay, kids, let's go. And then, you know, something about that. I don't know what it was, but take a look at those figures though, man. Charming. That's what I'll call them. They're charming. But yeah, and then you start to see the introduction of like the computer graphics and stuff. Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
Ooh. But that whole world, that whole background, that bridge, imagine having something like that today.
That bridge is looking good by today's standards, that bridge. If I could have that like behind me on the shelf here, I'd be like, all right, yeah.
You said by today's standards, you're 100% right. All of these diodes, even in the last two, like all of that is like would totally stand up today and you know, stand up next to the most highly detailed, articulated figures that we have today.
Yeah.
All right. Those are cool. And then I'm a little bit older school. So of course, when I think back to the classic sort of commercials, I think G.I. Joe, you know, it's like all of this. And this was like later G.I. Joe, where they were like, all of that animation was done specifically for this commercial, because that was not in the show. This was a special Refrigerator Perry like figure that you would send in flag points that you'd collect off the back of your figures, and then you'd get the fridge. But then here's the commercial part. So they filmed the stuff with the guy. They had that special animation done with sort of him in it. Like this was no cheap production, right? This was like somebody was investing. And, you know, at this point, G.I. Joe was G.I. Joe. So it was a tried and true kind of like model and line that they knew they were going to sell. So pretty crazy. Like they engaged the animators, what has been Sunbow, and they're like, okay, we're doing a commercial. Give us 10 seconds of this character. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But
I like the idea of like the mail away figure too, where you got to save up your points and get it. Like, you know, they did that with Star Wars and the Power of the Force, the 90s, because like you had to do that with your Han Solo. You had to eat a bunch of Kellogg cereal or whatever if you wanted the Stormtrooper disguise for Han Solo. And so like that's just like, I don't know if anybody's still doing anything quite like that with figures and collecting and anything. Like I don't see it.
Was Valaverse was doing something. They had points. I don't know if they ever had anybody redeem anything. I kind of vaguely remember hearing people talk about it. I'm not a collector of their figs, but yeah, it's definitely not much of a thing these days. And by the way, it is void where it's prohibited. So, you know, you have to honor the laws. This was really cool. All of that action feature stuff, posing up the figures. I will also say, like, you know, as a kid, I had no way of army building. Like my parents wouldn't go for that. But there was something about when you'd see these guys, I was like, wait, they've got two of those guys. They got a bunch of them and they're knocking them down. And so in many ways, the toy commercials were also part of the fantasy of being collectors and stuff. Yeah. Just hear some other G.I. Joe commercials, but classic stuff, a little bit before your time. Am I right?
Yeah. So I have recollection of some of the G.I. Joe commercials, but the ones that I would remember would be like the movie tie-in for Street Fighter, where you had the character being like, who are these guys? And getting kicked by Dalsim and like stuff like that, you know, but that was 94, whenever year that might've been.
Did they have like live action by that point? Like live action actors jumping in every now and then?
Yeah. So you'd get, you know, the kids playing with the toys, and you'd see, you know, the turnarounds for every character. And then whoever the actor was portraying, I don't know if it's like one of the G.I. Joe characters, you know, would come in and be like, wow, these guys, you know, like talking to you about how cool they are.
take a look at the whole setup there, man. That would be something in your little toy room, you know, with your collection all posed out on these mountainside, and
that's really good.
Killer. And these are also like ways to kind of like, you know, they really like, these are the characters, these are the ones you're looking for. And they were very much for the parents and the aunties and the grandparents. They're like, oh, I need to find that junkyard guy. I need to find that mutt guy because that's the new one. Check out that little piece of animation there, the Hasbro logo. Oops, such good stuff.
Getting like stamped onto the
yeah. So this one, this was just a random one, but like, you know, I wasn't necessarily like, I played Operation as a kid, but how many folks in the chat watching this, or I don't know if you remember this, because I think this was like 90s, know exactly like what the jingle was for this Operation, right? And it was just like, we hear these things now. This is totally the era of, you know, you can tell by like all the wild angles, everything's sort of like wonky. It's the era of, you know, what is it? Double Dare and
absolutely.
Nickelodeon and gross out stuff. And I was a little bit older by this point, but it was just still like, by this time I was like, man, watching the commercials to watch the commercials, because it's fun, music, everything in there, the pull in, it's all great. Like someone took the time to think through this, storyboard it, and get set up production. Check that out.
Yeah, there's like these board game commercials are always really fascinating to me, because like they managed to make some of these games look way better than they actually were if you were to get it out and play it. Like Mousetrap looked like the most elaborate, exciting thing. And like then you'd get the game and like you just didn't want to play the game. You just wanted to build the trap and watch it go. So like nobody followed the rules of Mousetrap, but you just saw the commercial and you wanted to just build it.
You were just trying to trigger that mousetrap.
Yep, which is how I just set it up and put it where it belongs.
The inevitable disappointment when the guy didn't jump into the tub, but yeah.
He cleared it, yeah.
So that was cool. And then this one, again, this is actually one of my most hated commercials back in the day. I thought the kid, I was like, girl, this smug little dude. And it's like, man, I want to see the toys. So, but it sticks in my head. Of course, I'm a Lego guy, but like the song sticks in my head. Does this look familiar to you, or is this maybe again before? Maybe before?
Not ringing a bell yet, but
okay. It's just like Zach, he's a Lego maniac, and it was just this song. It was like over and over, but all these toys, the classic space toys, the city stuff, and then they'd show you stuff like that where you could make your own creations. But I was, you know, admittedly, I was probably just jealous of the kid.
Yeah, because he's got a lot going on there for himself. Everything. So yeah, I remember some Lego commercials, but by the time I had any memory of them, they were doing like Lego Mania at the end of the commercial, and that it was for, you know, castles and spaceships and pirate ships and stuff. Like, yeah, that era, early 90s, I guess. But
so this would have been 87. I would have been about 11 years old, and I don't think I ever wanted to wear the gigantic jean jacket and the gigantic jeans, but apparently I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Look at that room too, man. It's just, again, it's all the stuff of fantasy. It's so 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
None of the kids in my neighborhood had houses like these, but sure.
That's the thing about like media and television. Even back then, they were lying about like what the 80s was supposed to be. Like now when you when you hear about people talking about 80s, they think of this and they think this was what the world is. I'm like, no, this is what media was. Yep. The world was wood paneling and, you know, ashtrays in your car. Like,
yep. It's so funny. You know, a lot of I teach, so I teach high schoolers, and I remember there was a point where kids were all about like the 80s and then the 90s, but their concept of what that reality is exactly what you're saying. They thought it was like this stuff.
Yeah.
They thought people dressed a certain way. I was like, well, I mean, maybe somewhere, definitely on TV, but definitely not in Downey, California or Los Angeles where I was at. But
no,
anyway,
You got horizontal stripes and brown pants. That's what it was.
But this episode is all cool, man. And like the reason we are talking about this today, of course, is because this is Captain McKay's IG, which you should all follow. You have been like on a rampage of just taking your toys and doing stuff with them, creating with them, putting these things into, doing the stop motion thing. And I'm so curious, when did that aspect of sort of playing with your toys become a thing for you?
As an adult, it was probably in like 2010. The technology had finally caught up to me wanting to do like animation, because as a kid I was trying to do it with like a VHS camcorder and my Kenner figures that barely moved, so very limited results with that. But by the time I actually got older and like technology had caught up to like where I needed it to be as a consumer, I was like, okay, I can start doing some of this. And it's been pretty regular ever since, I would say.
You're always filming something, setting stuff up?
Trying to, you go through periods of like downtime where you're like either just doing something else or, maybe you're just taking a rest. But especially lately, I've been trying to like kind of double down and get more stuff happening, just like if I can just get myself in the back room for a little while, every day or a few times a week or something. I'm just like, all right, you can see the tangible result of what you've done, and it just makes you want to do more. So it's a nice little cyclical thing.
And you were saying that you were doing this real early on, and so that was really intriguing. You're doing it with your old camcorder or what have you. When did that start? And what were you producing? Do you happen to have any of that old stuff?
I wish. I don't know what happened to like
amazing
all those VHS tapes that I was trying to do, because it very much like the commercials we were just watching. I was doing a lot of like acted out. I would make Batman episodes or whatever, and I would just have my figures doing whatever. But I always didn't want my hands in the camera, like in the view. So I was doing it like underneath where the field of view was, and then would try to do some of the animating, and it would just, you'd get what you'd get out of technology that wasn't designed for that. But yeah, like, I mean, ever since I was a little kid, like probably 4 or 5 years old, and I saw King Kong, the original one. And that's all it took. I mean, giant monsters are now like one of my favorite things, and stop motion. And I'm like, one movie, one character really to thank for all my entire life.
Giant monsters, eh? Yeah, no. I love it.
Thank you.
No, that's really great. Like I always respect kids who were like, oh, I saw this thing and I did my version of it and actually execute it. I think that's really cool. Were you like building sets and stuff? To what extent were you kind of, or like using? I used pillows for mountains and stuff. But how would you do it in your videos?
As a little kid, just whatever play sets you had. So if you had the Kenner Batcave, the Kenner Batcave is what you had, or the Jurassic Park compound, or you'd stick houseplants in front of something, and now you're in the forest. Just like whatever you had, you'd go outside and bring your velociraptors with you. Like just anything you had in reach, basically. Nothing was off limits.
That's so cool. So here you are now with your, I would say like some of the best looking, best sculpted toys available from Four Horsemen. They absolutely pay attention to detail on everything. And now you're able to do something a little bit more beyond what you're doing as a kid.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm looking at this, like the animation is incredibly smooth. The way that jump there is executed, and the reaction from the person being attacked.
Thank you.
It's so cool. The physics of it, Yeah, like, is this just something that did you ever, I don't know, did you study this stuff? Like, I don't mean study necessarily in school, but like, were you actively seeking out examples of stop motion animation or watching animation as somebody who's interested in producing, rather than just like, I'm watching it to enjoy it? Like, how'd you go about just getting the ideas? And
I think like later on, I would eventually start like watching animation and trying to see what I could pick up and learn from it. But like, I've always just been fascinated by it. I've always really enjoyed watching it. And I've always been trying to like push the limits of whatever figures I had to see if I can make something cool out of them. So when I started doing like YouTube stuff at the time, I was using a lot of like the WWE figures that were out, and they were the Jakks Pacific ones. So they're not known for being super, super posable. You can get some things out of them, but you know, I was trying to do as much as I could. And now we're at the point where you can have super posable figures and like you're spoiled for choice really. But I'm finding the challenge now is sometimes maybe you don't need as much articulation as they give you for a project like, you know, like a stop motion. So these Mythic Legions I was trying because I know they're very detailed visually, but like these earlier ones aren't quite as articulated as, you know, they would certainly come to be now.
Yep.
But I was like, how do I approach this? And for this one, I remember thinking, I'm like, well, these are armored up characters. I want this thing to feel heavy. I want these characters to feel like they have some weight to them, because it'd be real easy to have them like kicking each other across and like flying through the air and stuff. But that's not
the string again.
Yeah, the string. It wouldn't quite land the same way with this. So this was a test, and unfortunately, I ended up knocking over one of the background walls, and I couldn't set it up the exact same way. And so I'm like, that's why it's so short. But it's
great though. Even in like, so you said a lot there in terms of like the weight and the sort of the limitations of the figure. You're 100% right. Four Horsemen figures, I'll say, like, aren't the most articulated figures out there by any stretch. And of course, like they're looking at that right now with like the new 3.0 configurations with the double elbows and knees and all of that. But what this, I think your animation proves so well is, you know, and people are always saying like, well, how would a person in all of this armor like really move? And when I see this, I'm not necessarily going like, oh my God, that jump was so small, but like, because it sells it. Like, it's a person in really heavy armor. Like, that's actually a lot of jump for someone in that heavy gear and that big twist or whatever. And there's a speed that happens when she lands. Like, is that all conscious that you're like really, because you mentioned like trying to think about what would this feel like? How do I communicate weight and physics?
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to like with these two, really I remember thinking like the knight that's getting attacked here, he's basically just like a tank and he's going to eat hits. And so he doesn't move a ton, but her, like, she's like a smaller character in the line. So I was like, I want to show her at least be a little bit more adept at fighting. Plus she's one of the named characters. If anybody collects Legions, like this other guy is just like an army builder. So he's there to be fodder basically. And just
red shirt.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I just wanted to showcase the more important character and try and make it look like, you know, she was a much better fighter, much more skilled, and give her like the cooler, more stylish moves as a result.
This moment right here, there's a moment between sort of when the sword is up here and comes down. It's so fast and like intentionally and appropriately. There's that quickness that sells like she is moving. There's all this weight. She's catching momentum and bam. And I mean, you said it, he's a tank. So he kind of stands there and there's some reaction, some give, but that's all like real cool, nuanced, some detail in them that I love.
Thank you. Then, this was actually fun because her sword has that curve. So like when she's going up and over, like following the curve just makes it look more natural than it would if it were a straight sword. So like that was like a happy accident that I kind of was like, oh, I'm definitely going to pretend like I meant to do that. That's good.
And your dial work in the back, in the background, in the,
cool. Those walls there.
It's funny though, you know, we hit this point, and please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not dissing your Dio at all. But, you know, earlier we were looking at how the Dio had like all this detail and then the figures were like pretty simple. And now because of where figures are at, I mean, it's 4 Horsemen figures, right?
Yeah.
Like, I hate to tell you, Captain McKay, Eric Treadaway's sculpts are slightly more detailed than your wall.
He's got more skill.
No offense at all, man.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Look, he deserves to be happy with what he's got there. They're great figures. But
I only bring that up because at a certain point, like I was really fixated on that strike and that movement, and that is to me a testament to like your eye and really working on that animation. Really cool stuff, man.
Thank you.
This rig, is this like something that is bought? I'm super unaware of this stuff.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to educate me.
You can buy stop motion rigs. I can't think off the top of my head where I got this one. It was definitely like a special order type thing because it has like the knobs that have it, so you can adjust it vertically or horizontally. So like, and then once you get to the end point of the horizontal rig, you have all the arms that have like the joints and stuff that you can see there, and they have different attachments at the end. So basically, like however you want to affix it to the model you're using. But you can go on Amazon, or I think, and just buy like kind of simpler ones if you don't need all that, extra control. And I have one or two of those too. I also have like just one of these like soldering tools where you just like have like an articulated plastic arm with an alligator clip, and if you put something heavy on that, that's usually enough to support a figure if you're doing something simpler. So it's just, there's plenty of tools out there. You don't have to spend tons and tons of money on this stuff. You can make something great on a pretty small budget if you want to.
That's really cool. And so I'm just curious, what's at the other end of this weighting it down? Is it a pretty heavy, like metal
it's like
base
like a flat base that feels like, I don't know if it's like stone or some kind of like synthetic stone or whatever. And then there's like a metal upright and a metal going across, and then the winders that kind of connect the two pieces.
Very cool. Yeah. And then for these, I mean, I kind of moved through these because it was a segue with you sort of talking about monsters, but there's something to this one that's a little bit more of a little bit of a story, or like an emotion, I guess, being communicated. And are you like an artist at all in that sort of sense of like, I don't know, like communicating these big ideas and trying to capture it in tone with the colors and everything? Is that something you learned from another medium, or?
That's interesting. I don't know that I necessarily like picked up on that on purpose. I just know, like, so for example, this version of Godzilla, the cover of the movie poster is like him silhouetted against the red background. So you're familiar with it. Like, and then there's a song that plays at different points in the movie, and these are lyrics that I've taken from that.
Oh, is that the lyrics from the song? Gotcha.
And so, so I was just like, and I was at the time fascinated with like some analog horror type stuff that I'd come across on YouTube. And I was like, what would this look like if somebody on the street is taking a 90s camcorder and looking up at Shin Godzilla in the style of the movie? And like,
that's cool.
That was my thinking for that one. And, I've done some more other like kind of more straightforward Godzilla stuff, which is more, big battle scenes and destruction and everything. And those are always fun too. But
that's cool.
This I liked it, stood out a little.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Let's see. There was one above here. Let's talk wrestling. Not by any means, no, by any stretch of the imagination, am I a wrestling person these days. I flirted with the WWF for a while.
Yeah.
Back when Hulk and Macho Man were teamed up, and then later Ultimate Warrior and him. So it's a long time ago.
Gotcha. So yeah, my era was like this, like late 90s, very early 2000s. I probably had like a 5-year Attitude Era run, and that was the peak of my fandom. And it was also like kind of just where I came and went as a fan. Like, I don't actively watch any of it today. I've always tried to explain to people, like, I love like pro wrestling, the the art, the sport, the performance of all of it, but I just do not follow pro wrestling, if that makes any sense anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's neat because obviously what is it, a pile driver looks like, and what the setup sort of look like, and you can kind of you're communicating it, right? You're just kind of showing the. It's funny because so much of pro wrestling is all about the coordination of the players, right, and the choreography and the setups, and after probably soaking it in for so long, you're like, okay, now I'm doing it. I'm doing a match, which is really cool. Were you looking at a particular match, or was this just all? Were you using reference much, or?
Not so much for this. So like this would have been a piece of a much longer match that I put on YouTube, because like going way back, like I was saying, I've been doing wrestling forever, and it's to the point now where there's like years of lore in my own personal wrestling universe. Like at this point, Undertaker and Triple H are just having a fight for whatever reason we've established on that episode of the Warzone that I put on my channel. And a lot of this kind of like movement stuff is from just watching it and being a fan for as long as I was, but also from playing the video games and just like watching when you would do a character, like build a character, and you would select the moves that you wanted your guy to have. You could just watch the animation, and you could slow it down or speed it up or whatever. Right. And so like, I was just like, okay, this is cool, because you can kind of have recall of that. Or I myself could go just do a wrestling move to somebody and know how.
It's funny, again, speaking to the sort of background, as we kind of alluded to with the Mythic Legions thing, like in animation, especially if you go back and watch some of your favorite films or whatever, your favorite Disney film or whatever, you start to realize, oh yeah, the background just sort of like often is a blur, and it's often, like pastiche. It's just sort of like kind of communicating a hillside or a crowd of people. And so I've just realized I've been staring at this thing the whole time, and not at no point was I even paying attention to sort of that crowd in the background, which, it makes sense. It's in the distance. And what I'm actually focused in on is this action that's happening. You know what I was really fixated on?
What's
is
that?
Your, the ropes.
Oh,
the vibrations of the ropes. What was going on there? What did you do?
That was
because
it was an old trick I picked up from somebody. So years ago, when a lot of us were on YouTube doing like these kind of animations, somebody smarted me up and said like, hey, like after the impact happens, for the next few pictures you take, just hit the ropes like with your fingers or whatever, just so they're vibrating when you take the picture. And so that's what it is. Like, it's like 5 or 6 or whatever pictures after the guy's head hits the mat. I just took a picture with the ropes, like swinging, and it just like, it sells the illusion a little bit more. And
so it's actually capturing a couple different, that's because that's got to be more than one still, right? It's actually capturing a couple of quick stills of it move in motion.
Yes. So like, as like I'm doing the movements with the fingers as he's like, he's hit the mat, and now as he's falling to the mat, for every time I take the picture of him falling forward, I'm also hitting the ropes. So it looks like the impact has hit the whole ring.
Got it. For everyone. That is, it looks great, man. That is, it took me a while to realize what was going on and what I was staring at. I was like, oh man, well done.
Thank you.
Love that. And so again, I'm pretty green when it comes to the stop motion. I've seen stuff and haven't, been like, oh, how was this thing done? I haven't thought too consciously about it. But is there a pretty big community of folks like, talking with one another and sharing their stuff? And do generally people kind of get together and share tips like that?
It comes and goes, I would say. Like, so when I first started doing it, there was a huge crowd of people on like YouTube that were all doing it. And a lot of them, either come and gone, or they've stopped, or they moved on. But like some of them are still at it, and they've moved over to different platforms where like YouTube has kind of become a different style of platform now for different, it's more accessible to stuff like this, what we're doing, like streams and live chats and things like that. So people aren't necessarily checking for this kind of thing anymore. But I found that there's a great community now, like on Instagram. So a lot of these guys whose work I admire and have found out about just through Instagram, like it's all been pretty recent, the past couple of years, I would say, like 2-3 years, that I've found a whole new group of people, and like 1 or 2 of the, the old people that used to do it with me back in the day.
It's this, what's going on in these, whatever, the last 20 plus seconds is super sophisticated. First off, like the use of I'm assuming those are all alt heads with the mouths. Yeah. But the illusion is so, because of movement from side to side, it almost looks like it's a continuous opening of the mouth at certain points. I'm like, that can't be. That's just a swap of a head, right?
It's just a quick swap that your brain tricks you into thinking is like in the hands too. Like,
yeah. Because it's also in motion in other directions. It feels continuous. It's really cool. On top of that, this is obviously like several shots stitched together to kind of tell the story, and it's great. Like that shot. Okay, let's move to this action. It's really, really good, man. You're like, you're directing a film, is what you're doing. You really are. Sort of.
Yeah. I didn't think about it that way ever really, but you pick up on tricks and stuff too. So like, I've got the
cool.
the manager on the outside of the ring. Yeah. Having him out there means that I can cut to a shot of him instead of animating guys getting up off the mat every single time, because like that gets, it just gets to be more and more of that.
Yeah.
So like, you got him there, and when, this guy goes to stand up, we're going to cut back to him. So you don't have to watch him stand up, like it's just little tricks I've picked up on how to cheat over the years.
It's great. It really is. And so, no, I mean, and those truly are like, filmmaking tricks. It's like, okay, well, let's cut here, so allow for the reset in the viewer's mind. There's all sorts of cool stuff happening. But what I was looking at now is the hair.
Oh yeah.
The hair, the quick bends of the hair really sells it. It's so weird to me to think these are toys.
Yeah.
Because there's almost like at some points I'm like, oh, there's some animation of the, like digital animation of the hair. It's like, no, I'm realizing now this is bending.
It's just a soft, piece that, like, when you turn his head, it just bends on his shoulder the way it does.
Yep.
And it's
but in quick succession like that, it looks like what it's supposed to be. It's really cool.
Yeah. Like
that's
I said,
good stuff, man.
Spoiled for choice now. Like, we've come a long way since like the Jack specific figures that you could never like do any of that stuff with really convincingly.
All right, let's get back to some Legions. Oh, this I've seen in the wild come up.
Oh, okay, nice.
yeah. So cool.
Thank you. This was one that I did with Big Bad Toy Store, and it was January, I want to say it was. So like these figures, I wanted to challenge myself because I was like, okay, how do I make this one orc army builder look like 10 different orcs? And they, Mythic Legions gives you enough pieces to do that. And I was like, how do I animate one at a time and then make it look like there's several of them on the screen? And it was just kind of a fun little, challenge for me to do that.
Mm-hmm. So much work too, man.
It's just a lot. Yeah. A lot of pictures that you're taking.
You're filming, you're shooting the one, and then you're shooting the next, and then you're doing the compositing. What are you doing all the compositing in? Is it After Effects
I'm just using Adobe Premiere. Like you can do a lot of pretty convincing stuff without having to use After Effects, which I do have, and I should get better at using because I'm paying for it every month.
It's a pain though, but yes, it's yeah. Moving from Photoshop to Illustrator is one thing, but it's like pretty much. Then moving to Premiere, it's actually not bad. After Effects is its own model, right? With all the layering of all the and the typing in of information, but it's not nearly as intimidating as I thought it would be once I started digging in.
That's reassuring. I've only done a couple of things with it, and I've always liked the result. But all it takes is me doing one thing wrong in the process, and everything else just breaks. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna give up. Need like 5.
I love it. Completed shot with all orcs on the screen, and then here's the individual sort of. It's so cool. Look at that guy walking across the front there.
Thank you.
So good. Like all of those are very like filmmaking things, right? Thinking about what's in your foreground, what's in your background.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you.
So you've been doing stuff with BBTS. Like what's that like, and how did that relationship get started?
That was, initially going way back, the first thing I ever did with them was a Godzilla project. And I believe they had reached out to DGDX Animation, a friend of mine, and one of the guys that I was talking about, we go way back to the YouTube days. But, he had his obligations with NECA, I believe, and he wasn't able to do it. So he pointed them in my direction. And we, set something up really quick, and I got a Godzilla animation done for them. And that was really cool because it was a part of a Fathom Events, like one night screening of Godzilla 2000. So I was in that movie theater like half an hour early, just waiting for my thing to be on the screen, But and then, so that was the end of 2023, I think. And then at the end of last year, I'd reached back out to them to see if there was anything, further, like if we could do some other stuff. And, we came up with this idea, which was really cool. And it's kind of been in limbo ever since because there's a lot of, issues going on with Big Bad and kind of how it relates to the world situation we're in right now, where they're just like, yeah, we don't know what is going to happen going forward. So, just kind of keep it on the back burner. So this was unfortunately the last thing that I really got to do with them. But, I think the door's open. If things kind of stabilize a little bit, if I reached out to them, we'd be able to pick back up.
Yeah. Well, this is some great stuff, the whole story, and I'm just how long does it take you to do something like this? I know that's always a weird question because it's not like in one sitting, but
Yeah.
what would you guess?
This one, I want to say, if I had like a week to consistently jump between shooting and editing and just getting things done, I'd probably be able to pull this off. This one was a little more complicated because I was doing this around Christmas and New Year's and stuff, so I would be gone for 4 or 5 days at a time visiting family, and then I'd come back to it and
restart.
Yeah, basically pick up where I left off. So it was challenging for that reason, but you could put something like this together if you have the time to do it. Probably maybe a little over a week.
Are you doing much pre-production in terms of like storyboarding and that kind of thing? Is that a huge part of your process?
For this one I did because they just wanted to see an idea of, what I was going to, try and create. But typically I'll just kind of know what I want it to look like. And then I might just like do like a quick test of like a few frames of like super, choppy animation just to see if I can line it up right and just, camera test basically. But yeah, a lot of times I'm just like, well, I can try and wing it, see how that works. And, I've had pretty good luck with it. This one came pretty easily because like the pre-production stuff, like I already had the backdrop with all the forest and the trees. That was just some picture I took and made a poster of. And then the prop trees and stuff I'd already had made. So I didn't really need to create any kind of scenery. I just already had everything I needed. All I needed was like the figures.
Love it. Little magic effects. So what are you using camera wise? Is this
This is a T3i, I want to say, I believe, Canon. Just a DSLR. It's worked for me for a lot of years, and it plugs into my program Dragon Frame, which I think a lot of people probably familiar with if they do this kind of thing. And Dragon Frame is a great program for this kind of stuff because it lets you kind of like refer back to the previous shot you took, and it has like a fader, so you can see like the previous shot over your current one, so you know exactly where your character is moving. And I say it's made it easier. It's made it less challenging, I suppose.
It's really great stuff. And then you're doing your editing and everything. It's really cool, man. Great stuff. Captain McKay, that's his IG. You can check out his work. And I'm going to have to take a look at the YouTube because that's actually, as you say, it's not something that has been on my radar to look for much.
Yeah, okay.
So,
sure. The channel is Captain McKay Random on YouTube.
Okay, I will definitely take a look at that. And then let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other folks that I know you are familiar with, and these are folks that you shared with me. Just who else is in the game? And so this first one is Stop Motion Zach. What can you tell us about what he's doing and who he's working with?
He, I believe he does all of Big Bad's stop motion stuff. He's not somebody who I really knew about until last year at some point, I want to say. But like his stuff is always really good. So, when you watch what he's doing, he has a real good style for like in camera like effects. So like, for example, like when his characters are like hitting each other, he'll put an impact, like a tangible, like, cutout or a piece of like, cotton wool or something to look like an impact effect. So it's, I think, less digital with his and more, just everything he can do in camera. I think he tries to do it that way, which is always really cool to, for me to be able to see that because I don't do as much of that. But he also does a lot of like camera movement and stuff too, which must be a headache to edit because like, a lot of my shots I keep pretty still, but to be moving the camera that regularly and still have to go back and edit each one of those photos it's got to be a nightmare, honestly.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at some of his stuff. The first one that I, just graphically, I love. Mars Attacks are obviously like really well done characters that are meant to be on the screen. But let's see what he ends up doing with these figures that, I know are relatively limited in terms of motion, but so much is sold in the animation. Yeah,
this one's great. I loved a lot of his like his use of lighting too. Like I've started doing, and this is a theme across like pretty much everybody I watch, is like I try and learn something from them too. So he does a lot with the lighting. Like when he's got the guy firing the laser, he's shining a green light at the figure to like really sell that. And so I'm like, that's a great idea. I should be doing more things like that. And so, you know, you learn stuff like that just from watching these things.
Yeah, now I see it. Yeah, exactly what you're saying now. It's not something I picked up on at all, but yeah. And that transition there is so beautiful.
Yeah, that was really well done.
So, and it's really great because, you know, full circle with some of the stuff we were seeing in the 80s and 90s with toys. Now you got Big Bad Toy Store, who truly, like, I know sometimes people are like, oh, they're like the big guy on the block. But at the end of the day, like, they're toy collectors, right? They've been in this game for a long time. And now they're in this position where they're working with folks like yourself or Stop Motion Zach, and, you know, kind of like getting other fans who are really creative with their toys to create those commercials that we were like all like totally sold on and got into this whole game because of. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. All these little diodes. Do you know much about his process with that stuff? Is he making this stuff? Is he?
Believe so. Like we've had a little interaction like through messaging, but not like tons. But like I know I believe he builds like a lot of his own stuff too. So like he's just one of those people, kind of like myself, who likes to just be he likes to be like behind everything, you know, like and if I'm not mistaken, I think he builds a lot of his own stuff.
We'll just do one last round here to sort of see up close, like. Just, it's really neat to isolate and focus in on this area. Look at that. The way that transition was there, the emotion.
And then the fading of the focus to the character behind him. Like, that's really good.
Ah, amazing. You all and your talents. I love it. Here he goes for, you know, an in-house brand, essentially, Operation Monster Force. Like to think that, you know, Big Bad Toy Store now has the capability to create ads for their one to create their own line is a whole thing, and then to, you know, they have an audience and a medium through social media to do this, and then to bring in, you know, talented folks from the community to create these things. I don't know, there's just something really exciting to me about the way the sort of indie nature of toy collecting these days, and this little cottage industry that's happening around it, of creatives, of customizers, of people doing things like effects, photography, you know, custom accessories. And we see all of that sort of energy coming together in this thing.
Yeah. Like right here, especially like with, you know, this is their own in-house brand, and they're like, okay, well, we got to make people aware of this. What's something that would catch people's eye? And they know that this kind of thing speaks to people probably like around our age who would have grown up watching those commercials and watching that kind of stuff and being like, you know, now this is, I guess, the next logical step. And they, you know, their finger is on the pulse too, because we've seen not only them, but like
100%.
NECA, Mezco, like, you know, all these other brands Hasbro has done, and Mattel, like, they're doing the same kind of thing with the animation to like sell their figures, and it's great.
Even the animation of their logo right there was clean, and I'm looking right here, and that mask, I gotta say, like, I don't collect these, and I've looked at these figures. This wave one, I will admit, from just to make a point, to me, this was not the most interesting set of the figures that I know are coming from Operation Monster Force. There's just, you know, two of the figures use the same suited body. Totally, just that's my opinion. But I'm saying that for a reason, because because of this commercial, I can now sit here and just marvel at how amazing that mask and that staff is. And I was, you know, that wasn't something I noticed before. I think these are Arlen's skulls, Peltier, but whoever it is, it's fantastic, and they turned out so well. The other thing we should say is that these are all production figures. Right. So these are not special figures that people are messing with or anything. So it really does give you a good look at these toys. Look at that.
Yeah. It's doing great use of like the articulation that the figure has to be able to like show what it can actually do if you want to pose it up, however you want to pose it. And yeah, to your point, like I had heard of Operation Monster Force, but I never really looked into them too deeply. But like
Mhm.
now looking at this guy, I'm like, yeah, okay, that is really cool.
Yeah, it's
It's
dangerous.
cool
It's
looking figure.
dangerous.
This is how they get me, and this I'm
Yeah,
blaming you if I go
know,
on Big
no.
Bad later.
It's not just me. I'm looking at the same thing. I was like, oh, maybe I should rethink these. But what do you think? See right there with the light of the transition between the regular figure and the sort of translucent figure, and then there's kind of like a lighting up going on in the skull on his staff. Do you have any thoughts on how that's working? Digital editing, probably digital
I think
editing?
it's probably some digital effect on the staff, but I think the
Yeah.
rest, he's probably got a light that's a very similar color to the translucent figure, and he's like bringing it in and out and making it like strobe, so that when you switch over like one of these shots, it'll just switch over and it'll be illuminated enough. He may have done some layering too, I'm not sure, but like whatever he did clearly worked very well. It's an effective transitional, you know, you're taking two completely different figures and making this work and, you know, have it be one.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, let's take a look at his indie. This is one that I am pretty impressed by, just storytelling. And of course, the beauty of a lot of these, especially if you're familiar with them, and again, we don't have audio, but if you're familiar with the characters, right? Some of the stories already in the back of your head, just because you know how this guy sounds, you know what this guy does, right? And so it's kind of neat in that way, that brainwashing. That's really a really large rope though, but yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just use what they have in the jungle, I guess, in the temples.
So good. And just the blend of different figures that are involved in this animation is too cool.
Yeah.
Man, this totally, you know, of course, grew up with Robot Chicken and all of that. And that in and of itself was such a fun moment in time for action figure collectors and comedy in general. Yeah. But this gives me a lot of that, but so much more sophisticated.
Yeah, Robot Chicken is like opened people's eyes to a lot of this kind of stuff too. So like to this day, like people still every once in a while be like, oh, this is like Robot Chicken. I'm like, if that's your reference for like stop motion, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's like I'm never mad about it because first of all, Robot Chicken, those guys are good at what they do. So if they're saying I'm good, they're like, great. But also like, you know, that was a big deal for a long time, like you said. And I guess it's still going, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know.
Is it?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but if people are still bringing it up, then like it must be relatively fresh in people's memories.
I know my kids have found it through YouTube, just clips and stuff. Particularly like when they're interested in like Star Wars or something, and they start to see these things, and I just all of a sudden hear them laughing. I'm like, oh my God, I remember that from like 20 some years ago.
Yeah.
The whip in here, probably like wired or something.
Maybe if I had to guess, I would say they probably.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm not expecting you to know. Like, tell me everything, Captain.
That's how honestly, that's how I would do it. So like that might be if he thinks the same way I do, he probably did it that way too.
It's so cool. It's so clean.
Yeah.
It took so much work, but I absolutely would love to watch like stories using store-bought figures. And, you know, the comedy thing with Robot Chicken was hilarious, but like little things like this, little put together stories, mixing up the lines. Look at that, the animation of the run. That's like I studied Scooby-Doo and Hanna-Barbera, and it's so perfect. And then there's the behind the scenes on this as well.
Yeah, because I remember I think seeing his like his diorama that he built for this one, and he's doing like a lot of reference and stuff too, which is great.
And that's really how you get some clean. One, you get to work out the ideas. There you go, and get some of the real fluid looking movement. Probably lighting if you're paying that much attention, but yeah. So there's some editing in there of like, you know, the mouth animations, of course. There it is. Boom. Look at that.
Yeah, that's wild. That's really cool.
Glorious. Wow. Did you happen to know what recognize what the software was?
I didn't spot it. No, I didn't quite.
I didn't know if it was the Dragon frame you were referencing. I took my kids. It's funny. I was just telling Machu I took my kids to the Walt Disney Museum a while back, and they do like little workshops, and they had like a little stop motion setup, and they just
that's great.
using iPads and with an iOS app. Same kind of thing. You see all the pictures you take over time and it grayed out different levels of transparency, and it was really cool. Eye-opening.
Really cool. Machu is actually another guy that his stuff is really good. He posted a Street Fighter thing the other day, and I was impressed with it. Yeah, really doing the thing. First of all, I'm jealous that he has that figure before me, but everybody seems to have those before me. But
he probably has multiple before you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's bought and sold more than I will ever. But I reached out to him. I was like, hey, we should do something together at some point, some kind of a collaboration. Get a couple other people involved. If just everybody kind of does something, that'd be cool. That'd be fun. So eventually maybe that'll be happening. But and
he's a wrestling guy, so maybe,
he tested my knowledge. I was on the Between Two Sentinels a time or two. In fact, the last YouTube wrestling video I did, Between Two Sentinels was the sponsor, and I asked them for two reasons. I was like, number one, I like you guys' show, so if I can point people in your direction, great. But also because Triple H's entrance is horrendous because you're constantly changing lights, and I'm like, it'd be a lot easier if I could just loop a few pictures and put your logo right on the screen and not have to film any of that. And then by the time we get back to Triple H, he's already in the ring doing his water spit and doing it like.
I love it. Yeah, Machu's great. And I saw that Street Fighter, and immediately I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I started asking him questions about it, and he showed me the test animation. It's really cool. There you go. This is what.
Oh, okay. So this. I don't.
Yeah, I can't really tell.
I can't tell. Like it looks. That's a good question. I'd be curious now, because like the way I have Dragon Frame laid out is different, but that does look like the interface a little bit with like the slider on the bottom to get the transparency in between your shots, and you might have just a separate window open for reference. Like,
right.
That's really good.
Very cool. The other one, someone you've known for a little bit, DGDX. So his stuff I am familiar with as well, and we were kind of talking about him, and I just love the sort of. So a lot of this is, of course, the animation. A lot of it is the sort of the storyteller's sense, like what do they want to create? And some of his stuff is just so wild, like you can already tell just from the stills, the kind of nuts you're gonna get. Come on, right here, what's going on?
Yeah.
So let's take a quick look at some of DGDX's stuff. Let's do some Street Fighter versus Sesame Street.
So I don't know where he came up with this idea for Sesame Street Fighter, but I was like, okay, that's good. It's just...
Yeah, it was right there. Yeah, and so again, folks, I will remind you, I'm not playing the audio, but all the more reason to go check out that QR code or the URL that's coming across the bottom, and all of these will be linked. Check it out yourselves. Give these folks a shout out. Let them know, hey, Captain McKay and Brick Something, we're talking about your stuff, and it's awesome. Look at that.
Yeah, that's really good.
A lot of digital stuff going on in there, but it's really well done.
Yeah, he does a lot with like he actually like so one of the tricks I picked up from him was like a lot of his backdrops are like digital. Like he's doing like a lot of rear projected. Like he'll put it in front of a TV or something, let's say. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm buying a gigantic TV for my back room. And so that was 2 weeks ago. And like, I've been doing some test stuff with that, and I've been doing a lot more with like movement. So I got some new equipment and stuff I'm trying out, and we're going to see how that treats me. One of the things I like about all these guys is like, you get to a point where like, you can tell whose animation it is before you even see the name, because they all just everybody brings their own style to the table.
Yep.
And it's always been really cool to me.
Look at that. You see the artist's hand for sure. Oh, it's all so incredible. Look at just everything that's going on, the little blood splatter that happens when he gets him. Those total like energy effects, very manga anime. Love it.
Yeah.
Right there's a bite. And the emotion on his face is so cool on Dude's face.
Yeah.
Love it. Cool stuff. Over here, we've got, of course, this. So he also does work, you were saying, for all the NECA stuff, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And so this was for the SDCC exclusive set.
Mm-hmm.
Again, folks, this is one that you want to hear. A lot of these, you want to hear the audio because we're just barely getting half of what these guys are doing. Of course, there's audio. There's all the other stuff you work into it. But
selfishly, yeah, go listen to the audio because I do the music for these NECA ones. So
that's right. That's right.
So if you want to hear some like surf music going on with this, like that's where you got to be.
Oh, but, man, I'm sorry I'm so sorry now that we can't hear the audio. But that's okay. Captain McKay audio. See, like I said, more than half of what's going on is missing. But even the water effects and all of that. So there's definitely a lot of digital compositing going on here. And it's cool.
For sure.
It's cool.
But like,
because again, yeah, like I was just going to say, like for the other one, it was definitely a little bit more sort of worked in and maybe more sort of seamless. In this, it doesn't have to be. There's that 80s toy, 90s toy sense of like play and fun and like it's what is appropriate for the story being told, if you will.
Yeah, you can definitely see the difference between somebody who's like, in this case, selling the product. So it's like showcase the figures, showcase what they come with, what they do, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what you want to be doing, as opposed to, the previous thing with Indiana Jones, where you want to tell a story about whatever that scene is going to play out to be. Like, and for different purposes, it all works in different directions, I guess. But it's all, no one, I guess, is more relevant than the other. It's just what you're trying to do with it.
Yep. Different applications for different needs. Let's see. Now, of course, you can go to the NECA IG and you can actually see a lot of these. Once you sort of scroll down, you're like, oh, check out some animations. So shout out to DGDX official. Check that out. Definitely check this one out. You know what? Let's spend a little bit of time on this just because the dancing. It's all about this stuff. It just really sells. We know these people. Kind of like what I was saying earlier. It's like I know who Indiana Jones is, so I like half of that. It's already there, but it's also a challenge because if you don't do it right, we'll know. Yeah, and the dancing in this, the movements, you could tell. Like just studying. Look at so good.
The risk of using like a well-known character or person is like everybody knows who it is, so everybody's going to be able to spot if you're doing something wrong. And the fact that he's out here doing this with the moves and just having it be like as precise as he can make it is just, it's great. It's
really good. And then it also sells NECA's product. The faces on prints and just are fantastic. Of course, everything else, soft goods.
I'm trying to think. These might be just third-party ones he has in his collection. Like this was something that he just did one day because he.
Oh, okay. My bad. Because these are really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this stuff.
No, you're right. That body is not.
And you got it raining when Prince starts playing, of course, with the dubs, and like he's just throwing in all the little trivia for you too. If you're observant and know who these guys are.
Here, I'm gonna throw the crop in lower so we can actually see the footwork. This next time around. Oh, it's amazing.
Up on the toes, yeah, it's really good.
Woo! That's good stuff. All right. Couple quick things before we close out today. So some of it's stop motion, but again, to kind of tie it all together, we are in 2025, and just a couple of days ago from when we're recording, actually it was just yesterday, Mezco provided their Rumbler for pre-sale, and with it came an awesome Mezco style commercial in this Rumbler sort of thing on IG, and it absolutely it channels all of that stuff from the Kenner aliens, from the stuff we were looking at earlier with, of course, modern animation, digital effects or whatever, but just, it's so good. And
yeah, that's really good.
It worked on me, man. I didn't buy it, but in terms of my brother did. We were going back and forth sending each other, check out this review, check this out. Oh my God. We had just done an episode of the news last Sunday, and we were
Mhm.
talking about these sort of like large 112 vehicles, whether they're HasLabs or this or, and you know, he was like, oh, I don't know, the Mezco one. Like we'd only seen, I think, like a, I don't know if it was leaked or what, because I couldn't find the review again, but there were stills from a Happy Pursuits video.
Mhm.
And so we're looking at it and it's like, oh, it doesn't, I'm not sure. It doesn't really look that great compared to some of the other things that we've seen. And then we started sending back this, and D's review came out shortly, and then Babom 82. And then it was just like, oh man, we were so wrong, like totally wrong. And, you know, $325 later out of his credit card, he's got one.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just him, not you then yet.
No, I don't do a lot of the modern military stuff, and I couldn't actually do a lot of these bigger things. If there was anything I would have gotten, it would have been a Mythic Legion's dragon. And I successfully resisted that. But I do have, like, you know, like Cyberzoic dragons.
Impressive willpower that you showed with that. Because like I went in and I'm like, mercifully, the next thing, you know, the thing they have running right now, the wave, is a smaller wave, thankfully. Because if that was like another 10 or 11 figure wave and it would have been up around $600, I'm like, oh, come on, guys. These horsemen.
I'm all in for that, but I'm not ordering until the very last day, until I get back from Japan. And even then, you know, I'll have to see if I can. But this thing was amazing. Who does their animations, you know, or their commercials?
That's their animations that I know is a guy named, I hope I say the name right, it's Alex Kropinak or Kropinak, I'm not sure exactly, but he's been around forever too. And I was mentioning it to you earlier, like he's been doing stuff with like the Marvel What the series on YouTube for forever. Like he was,
which I didn't even know, and I got to check out the What the series.
Yeah, so it's a wild throwback too, because it's like stop motion animation, really well done stop motion animation from, God, like 13 years ago, 14 years ago, something, where it's like using the old, like the then contemporary still, like the Toy Biz stuff that would have been out and like the earliest Hasbro stuff. So like, you know, there was an eye for that kind of thing even back then, before companies started catching on, like, hey, we could actually use this as a marketing tool. He's just on there doing stuff with Marvel, I guess it was.
That's cool. Well, no, thank you for reminding me, because yes, you did bring him up, and this is Alex's IG, so definitely check that out. It was new to me. So, you know, looking through some of these, I'm like, oh man, and I'm definitely going to spend a lot of time on his IG. But let's take a look at a couple key pieces. This was, you were sharing that this was like kind of more of a reel of all the different things he's done. Man, his Nemo stuff. Look at that.
Yeah, this is like kind of the best of all the greatest hits. But I mean, this is, I guess, several of the figures that have come out with Mezco's lines over the years. And
so good.
Yeah, he's done, I think, a lot of their in-house brands. He's done pretty much everything. And you know, like you saw,
my favorite Mezco stuff anyway. The Rumble Society.
That's what you're into? Yeah, nice. Okay.
The Gangrene.
I like how creative they get with their original IPs. Like, they just throw everything at the wall, and it usually turns out really good.
Yeah, it's really great. This animation is so clean, and it captures, again, the spirit of the brand. It's just fun. That's what I really appreciate about Mezco. It's like sometimes we take ourselves a little too seriously, and they, you know, there's definitely that. It's bloody. It's like dudes with crazy weapons and guns, but it's a giant bug that has like the crazy weapons and guns. You know, it's the 3 pink skulls who are like hardcore punk band. So demonology and sorcery, but the dude looks like a cartoon. Come on.
The amount of times I almost bought some of these simply because of the props. So I know you're a musician, and so those pink skull guys like almost got me for the drum set and the guitars and everything that come with. I'm like, you know, for all the figures and stuff I have, I don't know how many guns and swords and everything I got, but I don't have a drum set.
Don't have it. Yeah,
kind of need one.
Sure do. No, but I've successfully stayed away. But I just appreciate it, and honestly, like his commercials just really put it over the top in terms of just really like communicating what the brand is about. It's about fun. It's about energy. It's a little bit retro. It's playful. You know, it's escape and all of these do all of that so well. They capture the brief so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
This guy,
absolutely.
I've always wanted that first figure. I'm forgetting his name. Very Kirby looking guy. This is again just another reel of a bunch of his stuff. But Alex, you're doing great stuff. Look at all that, really showing off. That's the other thing. They're always showing off sort of the accessories and everything that comes with them, because there is so much stuff that you can use that come with these Mezco figures in particular.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Every Mezco figure I bought just has like an entire tray full of like just accessories and everything. When I bought the first Turtles set, I did a review on my channel and everything, and I was just like, I think we finally hit the point where we've done too much. Like, it's just every turtle has like 25 accessories, and then they have like their communal, like shared everything that comes with them. I'm like, it's all great, but when will I ever get the chance to do anything with all this?
Then his motion on some of these, they look like people. Like, what are those Garbage Pail Kids? I guess I totally missed. Did they make new Garbage Pail Kid figures?
I don't know. I'm not familiar really. Like if they did,
I saw those and I was like, oh,
it came and went past me if they did. But yeah, I love how he's able, like you said, like it looks realistic, because I think a lot of the cloth, like the clothing and everything, just lends itself to being able to like flow naturally, you know?
Yeah.
And he gets great use out of that.
The way these guys move here, especially the Pink Skull segment that's coming up in a little bit. That's the guy. I love this guy.
Yeah,
I have the heads, but not the figure. This is the Garbage Pail Kid stuff. Man, that's a throwback. But then the Pink Skulls, there's something about the way the Pink Skulls are moving coming up shortly. Wow.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, there's these right here. Oh, and a lot of it's so well lit too.
Yeah. The Spy Gomez there. Like.
Well done. Okay, let's close out. There are other lines that I know you're a fan of, and I'm definitely a fan of, and clearly have like a different commitment to as someone who's working with the team. But Jason, well before I was even involved in it, what I loved about it was kind of like what I was alluding to, Mezco. He was creating these, tough as nails, adventurer, animal warriors, but it was very much couched in this desire to make something like we had when we were kids, a toy line that like could be for young people that you could clearly play with. Those figures are like pretty indestructible, but the way he sold it was with these commercials that he was putting together. You can't hear the voice, but again, folks, if you want to check out the links, but there's this adventurer voice who's telling you all about these figures. Like this was during the Kickstarter, really kind of just showing you everything that it's about in this nice tight package that feels like kids commercial back in the 80s and 90s. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, Primal Series, etc. And then when they tried to do this board game, like he went even further with that vibe, and it was like, well, that's great, but this is a game they're trying to create that it's meant to bring people together to play with their toys. Well, all right, let's get together in a coffee shop and let's film a commercial. And it's like he worked with someone, I'm forgetting names now, so I'm sorry, I'll see if I can circle back, but it's like, let's get together and like let's play and film it and do the whole going back to operation, right? Like do the commercial and just really, there's Jason right there, just sort of sell it, right? This is what it looks like, and you get that feeling of like, oh, okay, I understand what this is, and take my money. So
this guy hitting you with some lines on the way out, probably.
Yep. And of course, I really appreciate this piece because for some reason my brain locked in on details like figures sold separately. But yeah, no, and so that is the crew. It's friends of Jason's. They're in some coffee shop filming this, and there's the creator right there hanging out with his buddies controlling Kali Prime. So I love that kind of thing, and I hope to see more and more companies do that. The big guys are clearly picking up on it. Lego, obviously, I have an affinity for, but between these for the Transformer stuff, the Soundwave looks awesome, but the way they're sort of selling it is fantastic. Communicates the brand, communicates both the Transformers brand and the Lego brand in this real tight sort of, you know, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 seconds thing, is fantastic. Look, it shows you the transformations. Like, it tells you, oh, it's Lego, but I'm going to build it and it's going to transform. Between this and the One Piece ones that they're doing, the commercials, they're getting like the actors from the Netflix show to kind of show their sets, and they have like these animations with the Lego branded stuff. But it's just kind of cool to see. And again, it's funny now because we would watch TV, and then in between there would be these things that we're sort of forced to watch. Oh, the commercials. Now here we are on IG, and it's like, oh, this is coming up, and oh, let me click on that to actually watch it. Let me turn it up so I can actually hear the commercial now. It's amazing.
Yeah. Used to be like, let me not watch it because I want to avoid, like, you know, my parents don't want to see it because then they know they'll have to spend money. But now I'm like, let me open up my wallet and buy whatever this thing is going to be, because by the end I'm going to be convinced I need it.
The ironies of late stage capitalism, man. It's wild. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we can leave it there with Lego. There's all sorts of great stuff that's out there, but you know, commercials. We started this off with us as toy collectors really being convinced by and indoctrinated and brainwashed, but also entertained by these 30-second segments that played in the middle of our favorite shows. And now here we are, folks like yourself, taking these toys and you're inspired to create your own stuff with it, tell your own stories and do your own adventures. I think it's fantastic. I really, really hope to see you kind of doing more of this stuff, but also, you know, we kind of talked about like, hey, could you do some of this stuff for like companies like AWA or Spero? AWA, that would be amazing. Like, I think I could totally see your work selling stories of, you know, Pale and Blight, etc. I'm just curious if you had like, what are some of your, before we head out, what would be some of your sort of like dream gigs of things that you would like to do?
I mean, you know, if I could take it back to the beginning and do like Turtles or Batman or something, would be great. Obviously those huge IPs, but like, I mean, if somebody comes along and has a great King Kong and they want to do it, that would be like the ultimate full circle moment for me. Because when NECA came out with theirs forever ago, like I made an animation where he fought a dinosaur, and that was like my favorite thing I'd ever done, because it was just like in celebration of what brought me to the table.
Nice.
But yeah, like, I mean, I don't know, anything cool, anything that kind of brings you back to those early days of watching those commercials and being like, I don't even necessarily need to know what this product is. I just know it looks cool, it looks fun. Those kids on the commercial are enjoying it. And, you know, everybody's just having a good time. That's
awesome, man. And I really hope that folks, you know, after watching this, follow you and follow some of the animators, and we sort of start to see a little bit more of this work. I've got some thoughts, and we can talk after this real quick about what we can do to highlight some of this work. But I really appreciate you coming through and doing the episode, but like taking me a little bit on this fun nostalgic journey and kind of thinking about how that all comes together to make sense of what's happening, like what we're doing now with our toys, man. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Just living 30 some odd years of my childhood all the way up through till today. It was good.
So quickly, if you could remind folks the main socials that they need to get to, and of course I'll put them in the links. Where should people find you?
Sure. I'm at on Instagram, Captain McKay, all one word. And, you know, you'll find all like the stop motion stuff that we saw here earlier. I'm doing more, so keep your eyes on that. YouTube, I'm Captain McKay Random. That's where it's longer form stuff, you know, behind the scenes, dioramas, making of, how to, basically anything that you like about this hobby. I'm probably into it as well. So feel free, come on over and, you know, enjoy.
Nice. And of course, check him out. I'm here. He's been on Between Two Sentinels. He's been on the Collection Nexus and different places. So follow him wherever he's at. Always a good time. Hey, man, I really appreciate you taking your time to come through, share, and look at some needless ephemera with me, man.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a good time. It's a good time, man. Definitely. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, and thank you to everybody who's watching live. I'm probably saying, yeah, good job, bye everybody. So I hope everyone has a great, I guess rest of the week, because this will probably be appearing on a Tuesday. I will be back on Sunday to kind of share a little bit about what happened in Japan, and we'll go from there. So thank you everybody for watching. This is where I like slickly plays the music. Hey, all right, folks. Goodbye. And, they're probably still hearing me because this is just a thing that happens on Toy Tube. It's an old shtick. Shout out Kevin. Kevin's the best. Toying around. Bye-bye.